Stand up.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Friday show. I'm so sorry we did not get together last night at the Hangout. It is crazy trying to schedule everything this week here in Nevada, as I do all I can to get out the vote, engage voters here, and talk to as many people as I can, working to elect Kamala Harris and Democrats up and down the ticket because, well, we really have no choice. As my guest today talks to me about, very excited to have Carrie Kaufman joining me. It was almost worth just coming out here to meet her and connect with her and have this discussion. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed her. I don't have a news segment for you today as well, but I did get to talk to broadcast, digital, and print journalist Carrie Kaufman of the Nevada Current, and I think you're going to like this. She writes the newsletter, You're Overthinking It, on Substack, which I think is great. I've been reading that. She's covered Clark County School District, which is one of the biggest school districts in the country and covers pretty much all of Las Vegas and the rest of what's happening here in the country as well at her awesome Substack, You're Overthinking It. Go subscribe to that. Carrie also hooked me up with several other guests here in Nevada, and I couldn't have done any of it without the great Sheila Bray, who is a longtime listener living here as well, who helped out a lot this week. I hope that you are doing good. I'm sorry for the intermittent posting, and I hope to get back on the regular schedule next week, of course. But thank you so much for all of your support, for helping me make this happen. I always feel like I'm not doing enough. It sure is hard to do it alone, but it's amazing to know that you're out there supporting me and this work, no matter how you can. All right. Let's do it right now with an amazing, inspiring, super smart woman that I was very happy to talk to, Carrie Kaufman, right now.
Very cool. Very fun. I've really enjoyed hanging out with you.
Thank you.
Like we know each other for a long time.
We have the same background, right? We're media people.
Yeah.
We're radio people who were in theater, who were performers. As you have talked to me about yourself, I'm like, oh, I understand.
Well, where did you grow up? Chicago?
I grew up here.
Oh, why did you say you lived in Chicago?
I lived in Chicago. I lived in Chicago for 23 years. I published a newspaper there for the theater and film industry called Perform Inc. And then...
Which is big there, that industry in Chicago.
It's huge in Chicago. And then the recession hit, and mostly, actually, Facebook and Google came to be, and there was no need to have a newspaper anymore.
So true of so many different places. And I think that's sad. There's nothing... Do you have...
You know, I'm not thrilled with how it impacted my life, but I always think that I just had a horse and buggy when cars were invented.
Right. Oh, that's very generous of you, and not whatever the opposite of cynical is, to look at it that way. Really, because my brother did that. My brother started an online news, wasn't old school newspaper, but an online news site, and it was really hard, really a labor of love, and hard to get funded. But you did that for a long time in a niche way. It sounds like in that industry in Chicago, and then Facebook and Google puts everybody out of business. Yeah, and then you came back here.
Then
to Nevada.
I came back here and started hosting a radio show.
Just getting back, like, why were you born? Why were you raised here? Why would anybody live in Nevada, in this state, this desert scape? Make the case.
When I moved here, I was a toddler, and there were less than 200,000 people here. And my dad came here for economic opportunity. His brother came before him and said, "You need to move out here." And
your dad was a gold miner.
Yeah, he was
a silver miner.
Exactly. And the education system at that point was really good. The education system in Nevada and in Las Vegas, the education system didn't get problematic until we hit record growth in the late 80s and 90s. And then it seemed like it was too much to keep up with. And we are now the 5th largest school district in the country, which is something that people are proud of. And I'm like, no, that's not a good thing. Right. It's too hard to manage. It's too big to manage.
New York, LA, Chicago?
Yeah. New York, LA, Chicago, Houston and us. Yeah.
Wow. Just make the case. You haven't yet made the case as to why someone, a human, could live and breathe here year round. I've heard that it is nice between October and what?
April.
It's really nice. Yeah. But then you die. You start to bake. You start to melt.
I am not going to argue with you. I hate Vegas summers. I've always hated Vegas summers. And they've gotten hotter as climate change has been a thing. But I will give you some good things about Vegas. First of all, it's beautiful. You drive around here and you are ringed by mountains. I know that you're here during the LA smokeout, so maybe you can't see the mountains.
I planned my trip around it. I was like, when does the smoke come? That's when I want to go.
When it's clear, it is one of the most beautiful places, especially in the winter when there's snow on the mountains. It's just absolutely gorgeous.
People are saying, though, locals that I talked to, that it's not common that you get the wildfire smoke here. Now, Nevada has a fire of its own, I believe, but the smoke I think that they're getting here is because of the winds from the fires in California. Is this not a normal thing every summer for you?
It happens every once in a while when somebody's got a big fire, but not quite as bad. LA is straight west, and that's how the winds blow, and this is what we're getting. It's not necessarily a usual thing.
What else can you tell me about this state? We talk a lot about Vegas and Clark County because most of the people who live in the state, the 3 million or so people, most of them live here. And then you got Reno and Carson City. That's it. It's the whole state, right? There's nothing else.
Yeah, there's a little
Are
bit
there humans in between?
There are humans in between. There's a lot of federal land that is not habited by people. That is in between.
The Bundy boys live there. Don't they have it?
Bundy boys live in Clark County. They live in rural Clark County. But there's Elko way up in the far northeast of the state. There are other cities that are dotted around, but they're small towns. They're rural.
So how do you talk about the politics of the state? Because it would seem that, generally speaking, cities lean more Democrat, more liberal all over the world, by the way. And this city is really diverse ethnically. One of the most diverse ethnically I learned anywhere in the country, cities. And so I'm just making assumptions that it would lean Democratic. So if most people live in Vegas and they're Democrats, why is it a purple state? Why is this a battleground, a swing state? Why am I here?
It's a libertarian state. It's started as a libertarian state. We still have a citizen legislature, so we don't pay our legislators as, I think we're one of the 3 states left in the nation, us, Texas, and I don't remember the third, who do not pay legislators a living wage. And so, you have to take out time from your business usually, and it's usually doctors and lawyers and people who do other businesses here for the energy industry can afford to take out time and make the laws. And we are very much a live and let live state.
I don't know what that means. Okay. Libertarian and live and let live. I've heard that about New Hampshire. That's on their license plate. But in today's issues and terms, what does that mean? When I hear it, I also think that sounds conservative and Republican too. But now those labels and that movement is not even like the MAGA movement isn't necessarily even conservative by traditional standards when it comes to economics, when it comes to trade and tariffs and markets and regulations. So is there any way to explain what you mean or what people generally refer to when it's live and let live libertarian?
We don't care what you do. We are not in other people's business. We don't necessarily know our neighbors, and that's not always a good thing. People from the Midwest
you have walls between your homes. Everybody has a wall.
Everybody has a wall.
I want to come out here and be a wall maker.
Most communities have walls that are surrounding their communities, even if they're not gated. So and we don't keep tabs on people. We don't keep tabs on when they're coming home and when they're.
So how does that play out with with abortion? This is this great tagline that Tim Walz and Kamala Harris are taking back language to, so to speak, get the government out of our bodies.
I think that plays well here. That before Roe v. Wade was overturned, Nevada had pretty good abortion laws, and we've had them for a long time. There was a referendum back in 1990 that the only reason that there's a referendum on the ballot now to enshrine abortion rights into the Constitution is because laws can go away. Laws can be overturned by another legislature. But it's hard. It would be hard to do that in Nevada right now.
So that should get people, you would imagine that'll turn out to vote, as it did, I'm guessing, in the midterm elections, much less.
Yeah.
That issue alone. Like I've been saying, I do a daily show. We talk politics every day, but I've been saying since Roe v. Wade was overturned, we can all just turn our mics off because it's the only issue. It's the most important issue. We don't need to speculate. It just is.
Yeah. And if you look at the voter registration, especially since Kamala Harris has become the candidate, a lot of women are registering to vote, a lot of young women. And in this city, a lot of young Hispanic women.
What's that about? What would you say about their interests and how they vote?
I think that they finally think that there's something to vote for. Right? There's somebody who sees them, and there's something at stake. There's something that's been taken away from them.
But before Roe v. Wade was overturned with the Supreme Court appointments that Donald Trump made when he was president, there was the Women's March and the Me Too movement. Mm. Didn't Trump getting elected a man who bragged about abusing women, didn't that just animate women out here and everywhere? Isn't that still a thing, given that it's the same guy leading the same movement?
I think there were a lot of women, a lot of white women, and a lot of white.
We don't talk about white women on this show.
Middle-aged women who weren't aware of the fact that there were Donald Trumps out there. And one of the things when Harris was named, there was a Mom's Demand had a Zoom for white women.
Yeah, Shannon Watts.
It kind of cracked me up because there were a lot of white women who were like, I've come into myself. And these are people who are like in their 40s and 50s. I've come into myself and realized that we need to be fighting and I shouldn't be so complacent and what have you. Yeah, and I'm like, oh my God, this is a white woman waking up thing.
Yeah,
right?
But I'll take it. Like I noticed the same thing. Yeah. And as a white man, I'm not going to say anything about, we're still way behind, but I think you articulated that really well. Like we're watching them go, oh, I need to get engaged. Yes. I didn't realize how bad things were because maybe they weren't for them.
Yes. And because they do what they grew up in these kinds of households and they're more libertarian minded that makes me a little bit uncomfortable. And in the last 9 years, they've realized, oh, that's actually really racist or that's actually really sexist. Now, personally, I want to slap them. But also, I will take them. Welcome to the fold.
No, that's a really interesting way of saying it. I'll let you say it and just shake my head to it because I'm not, again, the category. I've always been woke. I haven't been, but I was paying attention and covering these issues and begging white women and just all categories to care about issues that matter. You've been doing that your whole career. Mm-hmm. And so I want to just ask you more about specifically your work and journalism as it stands today. You're doing your own thing now and working with a whole bunch of different groups and organizations and this school. You're well connected here, but how do you look at the work that you're doing and the state of journalism, whether it be here in Nevada and Las Vegas or the country? How do you think about it and look at it?
Boy,
because you've got a really good perspective given the work you've done and the issues that you cover. Humans
are journalists. And
journalists or generalists?
Journalists, we're all human. I guess that's what I'm saying. But we have this weird creed in journalism that we're all objective. And that makes us say, I can't possibly be wrong. I'm objective. And we also are creatures of habit. And there are a lot of journalists, and I've written about this in terms of the New York Times a lot. There are a lot of people who are just like, I don't know, this is the way we've always done it. If we talk to one side, we have to talk to another. And around Trump, I started saying pretty vocally, no, you cannot talk to one side that tells you the truth and another side that lies to you and then say, oh, no, you decide. You listener, you reader decide.
Right.
You also cannot talk to somebody who says, this is my humanity, and somebody else who questions their humanity or who wants to harm or discount their humanity and put yourself in the middle of that. I'm not going to put myself in the middle of somebody's humanity and somebody who wants to take that humanity
When you're
away.
Using that word, I feel like you're referring to your sexual orientation, identity, or even your race and gender.
Yes.
That's your humanity. And
that is your humanity. It's who you are.
Yeah.
So to have a radio show where you talk about, I don't know, are black people really, are their IQs less than white people? That is not a question
We're not
you put on the air, but it was a question we would have put on the air 20 years ago.
Some people would say on the right, I guess they use the phrase identity politics to what you refer to as humanity. Mm-hmm. And I always reacted like, I don't think those folks want to be talking about racial issues or gender or sex. But the bottom line is, if you're gay and you can't get married, you want to be able to get married. It's my humanity.
Right.
And before we get to reproductive rights, trans rights, we're old enough. and you're a member of the gay community, to think about these issues. That was so when you say, as, who is it, the quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs, I want to pick on him, Mahomes, he said, if people treat people well, that's all I care about. I hate that, Carrie, because the truth is we all treat people well to our faces. We work with, oh, I know a gay guy. I know a black guy. He's a great guy. I'm not racist. No, if I'm treating you well, but I'm saying you can't marry the person you love, that's your humanity. It's not identity politics. I'm taking something from you that I have, and that's how I see it. Is that what you mean?
Absolutely.
And so there's a moral clarity to your journalism as opposed to that objective word that we used to get. Is that what I'm also hearing?
And I think people hide behind objective. Like I think that we don't examine our own biases because we've already taken for granted that we're objective because we're journalists. Right. And I think that's really dangerous. And I think that's really what is behind all of the anger, especially from the left, at journalism today. But there are a lot of people who I see as middle of the road people who are like, oh my God, what are they doing? Why this headline? Why are you giving this man a pass? Joe Biden, 50 million stories about how old he was. Donald Trump comes here and talks about sharks and in the middle of a desert. And
is that where he made these comments? It was here?
Yeah, it was here.
The sharks in the boats, the electric boats. Yes. Which one do you want to choose? A shark or I think I would choose.
Good, yeah.
I would choose the boat. I'd rather be electrocuted than eaten by a shark.
Yes.
I think he said.
He goes off on tangents, and the New York Times does not.
So you're giving some great criticism. You've written about this at your Substack as well, about the national media, New York Times, and so on. What about Nevada media? We're going to talk to some Nevada journalists here, and how robust or weak, what word would you describe to say are the journalistic outlets that are covering the state house here or the gaming commission or industry, et cetera? How much coverage is there for people to choose from these days in Nevada?
Not much.
There used to be these legendary newspapers, right? Yeah. 2 of them or 3 of them?
There were 2. There was the Sun in the morning and the Review Journal in the evening.
And that was Nevada. And everybody got those, and they read in the morning and they read at night, and they were all believed that the earth was round, and now there's a billion different. But there still are some here in Nevada doing good work.
We have a couple of nonprofit news organizations. We have the Nevada Independent, which is John Ralston, and they tend to be really wonky. They tend to go into issues and like deeper into issues. So if you want to read about water in Nevada, you're going to go to the Nevada Independent. They have a lot of really good stuff there.
And that's an issue. Like most people don't read about water in
most
America,
people don't read. And also
in Nevada they do.
And I'm not really sure what the readership is, right? Compared to the RJ, or this is my big bugaboo, compared to the local news stations here in Las Vegas, which don't really report much news at all. Their education reporters are pretty good, but they tend to look at the big thing and like the most audacious thing and report that.
Yeah, that's the one that gets the clicks, gets the money, gets the subscription. Yes. It's very hard to make money covering important issues these days, no matter where you are.
So the Independent is doing what it can to be deep in the issues. The Nevada Current, which I have written for, covers left of center issues, the issues that people necessarily don't talk about in the national journalism, because their view and state's newsroom's view is that the journalism as we know it is much more conservative. They cover the issues they choose to cover are the right of center issues. And so state's newsroom is trying to pull that in the other direction. I'm not really sure how many readers they have, but they're there and it's a voice. But if you are working in New York City, for sure, or Atlanta or Chicago, and you are working in a place that is not good and you don't like the journalism they're doing, or they're racist towards you or whatever, you can leave and get another job in media. Here, that's pretty much not the case.
And increasingly not the case anywhere. I mean, it's still hard to get to you lose your job in media. A lot of times that's your last job in media, at least.
Unless you do it yourself, like you and I do.
Yeah. And there are trade-offs, that's for sure. What about the gun issue here? The Las Vegas shooting brings, everybody knows what I'm talking about. When I say the Las Vegas shooting, there are a lot of shootings in Las Vegas. There are a lot of shootings in Nevada. They're very lenient here. Everybody has a gun? Should I assume everybody has a gun?
I don't. There are a lot of people who don't have guns, but it is an open carry state. So I often will write in a local coffee shop and I will look up sometimes and see people with a gun on their belt. And that's just the way it is. It terrifies me, honestly. But I don't think they're going to do anything in that coffee shop. But it is terrifying that it's an open carry.
Don't you just go, oh, there's a good guy with a gun. He must be a good guy.
I just say,
with a gun.
I hope they're leaving soon.
It's crazy. I think that for a lot of listeners in a lot of states, that is not that unfamiliar. But for many of us, that's a crazy thing to witness, to see someone just walking around with a gun. But that's America. So the laws here haven't changed. You mentioned they're libertarian, live or let live. And I guess that applies to guns as well. Based on that horrific shooting, we didn't do much. I guess they passed something against bump stocks, which is doesn't really make a difference because I can make a bump stock in my garage. I think. So you can make a law against it.
In Congress, and it was overturned. So that's not a thing anymore.
We can talk about the courts, but in terms of the state, they haven't really made.
No, and in fact, when I was growing up, you had to actually get a license to carry a gun in
what a novel
Las Vegas.
idea.
I know. And as I was living in Chicago, those rules loosened up. And they loosened up a little more in 2015 because the Republicans held the legislature in 2015 and never really went back. I mean, there have been a few things that people have tried to do, but didn't really succeed. It's a gun-carrying state.
Yeah. Who's going to win this Senate race? Jackie Rosen or Sam?
Jackie's going to win.
She's going to win.
Yeah.
I see the commercials.
Yeah.
And you turn on TV. I watch football on Sunday here. I don't watch TV when I'm here, generally speaking, but I was watching football and you're just inundated with Trump and Harris and also the billboards. I see a lot of Trump billboards on those digital boards that keep changing. But in terms of the Senate race, Jackie Rosen's got it. She's the incumbent.
Yeah.
She's got it, you think, locked up.
The polling has shown that she's pulling ahead. And I think that there are a lot of people here who are satisfied with her. And Sam Brown hasn't really made a great case, except the regular Trump thing. Jackie Rosen is blah, blah, blah. But he hasn't really made a good case for himself. And there are a lot of people who are not going to make that change. Also, Kamala Harris getting into the race has helped energize people. And that's going to throw a Democratic blanket over everything.
True of almost every state but Montana. I don't know if you paid attention to this. John Tester's in trouble. I do
pay attention to Montana because I pay attention to how the Senate is going to look. Yeah. And I'm also looking, though, I look at Montana every day and I look at Texas and I look at Florida because I think that there may be sleepers in those Senate races. Yeah.
Colin Allred could be Ted Cruz and the woman in Florida. There are a lot of people
who have registered to vote who aren't on the pollsters' radar. So it's possible.
Gosh, it would be interesting to see certain, like Ted Cruz lose his seat or Rick Scott lose his seat, but then the Democrats still don't get a majority. It would be interesting. It'd be tragic, but especially if Kamala Harris wins, it matters so much, that Senate. We don't talk about it near. And what do you see happening at the top of the ticket in the general election? What's changed first? Before you get to any predictions, and maybe you want to make fun of people who make them and say you don't want to, and that's fine too. But what with the switch from Biden to Kamala, what did you notice anecdotally, much less in the polls?
So I would always tell my friends and other people I know that Biden actually was doing a good job. Like I was one of those people that was like, look, the Inflation Reduction Act, the CHIPS Act, all this stuff. There is innovation happening. There's investment happening. And he's got good policies. He's doing a good job. And they would look at me because all they saw was an old man. And it was infuriating. Those people, as soon as Kamala Harris got to the top of the ticket and Joe Biden endorsed her, which was a major thing, those people completely turned around and were totally enthusiastic. And some of them weren't probably going to vote. And now they're not only are they voting, but they're making bracelets for Kamala Harris. They're outdoor knocking for Kamala Harris. Many of them went to the rally that she held, that she
at an arena, filled up an arena, right?
It filled up an arena. I did not go because I didn't want to stand out in the heat waiting to get in. I also don't love crowds, but these people are enthusiastic. This is just my anecdotal seeing the community that I interact with.
And my experience here today was I went to the Nevada Democrats organizing meeting, and I'm not supposed to talk about it, but nothing's going to happen. The bottom line is they're organized. There's a lot of great volunteers. They seem really organized. And what I don't know is how organized Republicans are. They did not invite me to their meeting to speak. I'd love to come by.
Many of the Republicans leaders in this state have been indicted because of the fake elector scheme.
I think that's a crazy thing to learn.
And even before that,
many of the Republican leaders in the state were involved in a organized conspiracy to create fake electors, and they've been indicted as a result.
Indeed.
That is, first of all, great news because the justice system is holding them responsible for their very bad crime. But what does it say about the Republican Party? Did new leaders not step up, even more extreme ones?
No, that's the problem, right? Often. The moderate Republicans have faded into the running nonprofits and doing their own thing, and the extremist Republicans are the ones who have taken over. And I don't know how that translates into actual voters, if the voters actually agree with them, but the leadership has totally fallen apart. And it did so even before they were indicted. Michael McDonald, I will name names, is not the brightest bulb in the world, and he made some moves that just totally turned people off. And the party kind of fell apart.
Did Hillary Clinton win here?
She did.
And Joe Biden won here?
Yes.
And it would track. It would be shocking based on every election since and Trump's endorsement and involvement in many of the elections. People don't realize this. A lot of people he endorses lose. And obviously Republicans didn't have that red wave in 18 or 22. So I just can't imagine that Kamala Harris isn't going to win.
I can't either. But you also have to remember that in the 2020 primary, Bernie Sanders won. So there are a lot of people here who, if they are motivated, will vote Democrat, and who did not vote. The Bernie Sanders voters are not going to necessarily vote for old man Joe Biden, but they love Kamala.
Are there still Bernie Sanders voters out there here in Nevada? But no, but I hear what you're saying, and he's endorsed her as well. He's been pretty vocally in support of her. What have you seen? Just you're an OG like me, and I think it's really fascinating to look at this Democratic Party and progressive movement. We've always been very heterogeneous. We've always been very diverse. They talk about herding cats. And I always think as someone who communicates with and to progressives, it's harder to get people on the same page on a number of issues because we have a lot of diverse ideas. Not the case in the Republican Party. The point I'm trying to make is everybody's talking about how the progressive movement, the Democratic Party, liberals have coalesced behind this woman in a way that we have not seen in our lifetimes. That's how I see it. Do you see it that way? We're still fractured. We still have all kind of cynicism as Democrats, and we have scar tissue. But it just seems the stakes and, frankly, this candidate seem pretty different.
I think so, too. Also, I remember that this happened in France, where France was about a month or so was going to go far right, and all of the other coalitions put aside their differences and defeated the far right. And I think that there are a lot of people who saw that and were like, okay, we can do that. We can do that here too. Now, maybe I'm giving more awareness to people than they actually have. Maybe people didn't notice that was happening in France, but there were people who I didn't necessarily know were aware who said, hey, we can just be like France.
But there's so much less apathy and so much more engagement as a result of Donald Trump becoming the president in 2016, his presidency, COVID.
Yes.
And just having to care about things like public health and government.
Yes.
And then you had everything around Joe Biden, and you defended him, and a lot of people are criticizing him for still being there and so on. But he got a lot done. And then Kamala Harris and Tim Walz step in, and it's like something like we've never seen. And how has that played out in Nevada, like everywhere else, I'm guessing?
Like everywhere else, people are really enthusiastic.
Because there's a lot of volunteers, there's a lot of door knocking, there's a lot of getting out the vote here in Nevada.
And there are a lot of registering to vote. There are a lot more people who are registering to vote.
That we can track. And we assume that if that correlated with the timeline of her stepping in or up, that it's for her more than anything else.
And most of them are women. Most of them are younger and women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about young people? You have a twin 21-year-old daughter, so you're in touch with them. You write about the issues that they care about, obviously. What do you think about this generation of Americans, or specifically just this generation of voters?
They're over us. They're pissed off at us for what we have given to them. There are a lot of people. One of my kids is a political science international major, and a lot of her friends are very much aware of the issues that we have to overcome, and also how complicated it is to overcome them. You just can't say abortion should be legal. You just can't say we need to house the home. We need to fix the housing. We need to fix the homeless crisis, right? You have to work through the political channels to do them. But there are a lot of her peers who want to work through those channels and do the right thing and are not going to be thrown off by the fact that you have to work through the political channels.
I feel like they should be mad at us, and we should be mad at our parents too, on the issue of climate. But I also feel like in Nevada, it would be a thing that animates you pretty regularly. You're constantly reminded of issues around climate and sustainability because of water usage, electric, the Colorado River. There's a lot of things that remind you as a Nevadan every day about issues around sustainability. That's an assumption I'm making, but it's not quite the same in other parts of the country, I feel like, where it's not every day. Hurricane, extreme weather is more common, but more importantly, the energy issue and energy prices out here, which I really have I don't have much of an understanding about. Is that something that animates young people?
I'm not really sure it animates young people because I don't think they realize the energy prices. If you don't own a home, you're not necessarily looking at that bill. I will say this is something that happens in the state of Nevada. Energy prices went up. Electric prices went up astronomically in December of 2022. The legislature met in January of 2023. Nobody brought up a bill on that. Nobody said anything. There were a lot of people who were like, this is really bad. My energy bill has doubled. What's going on here? And I was left with the impression that somebody cut a deal. And there were a lot of other people who were left with the impression that somebody cut a deal because the legislature, which is Democratic, didn't bring it up once.
You don't have any
I have no proof. I have no proof.
How come this whole state is not covered in solar panels?
Much of it is.
Yeah.
There has to be more. There have to be incentives to homeowners, especially our parents' age, to actually put solar panels.
Make it a law.
there.
If you want to build a home, builder, it has to be sustainable.
That would be awesome. That would be really awesome.
More expensive,
but
I
when
get it.
you drive around the neighborhoods here, you see a lot of houses with solar panels on.
I see a lot of huge houses. Maybe that's just where I'm staying.
Yeah.
In a
No,
pretty.
there are a lot of huge houses here.
Is that right?
Yeah.
And I just feel like big houses need more energy to cool.
Yeah.
Not so much heat. Do you have heat? Do
Do
you need heat?
we need
during the winter?
We do.
You turn on the heat?
A little bit.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like you don't really have to pay for energy during that part of the year as much.
No, you don't.
But water is the other thing. You have water police here.
We have water police
and you
here.
tell on each other.
We definitely tell on each other.
Which is part of the...
And if there's a leak in somebody's front yard, people report it.
Yeah.
If there's a leak in the infrastructure, like sometimes you'll see a street flooding, they get tons of calls.
Why? What's the incentive of me narking on you?
The incentive is if you...
I would do it just because I care so much, but like most people
I think
about
there are a lot
water.
of people that care a lot, but also I think that if you get rid of your lawn and you don't have leaks and you do what you need to do, you get a discount on your bill.
Yeah, so who has a lawn anyway? There's a movement to get rid of lawns, right?
Yeah, there's movement.
Are we shaming each other yet?
I think so.
Yeah. Oh, good, because lawns are stupid for the most part. They are. They're really pretty dumb.
Lawns in the desert are definitely stupid.
Oh, for
and
sure.
Also, look how many people have gotten cancer from trying to keep their lawns clean.
Oh, yeah, the fertilizer and all that. Yeah, and you're killing every goddamn creature and critter as well, trying to kill the weeds.
That's always driven me crazy. Living in Chicago and seeing that has always driven me crazy. But yeah, we live in the desert, so why do we have lawns? Good.
I'm glad. I mean, I want to be a water cop. Is that I can do that, right?
You can totally do that.
That seems like a good job. I want to go around and write tickets if you got a leak.
There are people who do that.
I want to shame a guy to his face while he's watering. Is anybody so brazen that he would go out and water his lawn right in your face?
You can. You sprinklers. Nobody actually stands there and waters their lawn.
Wow, I really made that guy up in my mind.
Second of all,
high socks.
You can water during specific times of day.
All right, but we are frowning and shaming people with lawns and are watering. That's good. It's easy to joke about, but that is a cultural movement that needs to take place. If you're gonna populate this part of the world, that's the desert, then you can't have a lawn. You shouldn't get one.
I totally agree.
And yet you're also telling me that the Bellagio recycles that water, the big fountain.
They do. And we as a county recycle a lot of water. We had people who in the 90s were ahead of the curve on that.
The other thing is it's Sin City. So prostitution has been, legal for a while in certain places, right? Brothels in Nevada, right?
In Nye County, which is
in one county only.
In one county only.
But it's got to be $1 billion industry in Vegas in the black market. But the other one is cannabis. Yeah. So the industries Nevada's been on the forefront and some of this stuff, right? Although I heard the Nevada cannabis market is cratering like a lot of others, but maybe I read that wrong. I don't know. I don't know if you read about it.
Yeah, no, I don't really pay too much attention.
I know they deliver because my friend ordered it
totally
the other day.
Deliver.
My friend Schmeat.
Totally deliver. And you can also now you can go places, you can go to cannabis bars and smoke, have cannabis-infused food at restaurants, at certain specific restaurants.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. But we were not the first to do this.
They were I felt like you were one of the first 5 states, I feel like.
Probably.
No.
There was Colorado, there was
Oregon, I feel like, Colorado, and then California. Yeah. Maybe they were lagging. But anyway, there's a lot of just different industries that you have here that are more common or accepted even than a lot of the rest of the country, going back to the libertarian idea.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Make money however you want.
Yeah, make money however you want.
I'm not going to judge you.
Yeah.
Pay your taxes.
What people here are interested in is how much cannabis makes, because there's a percentage of it that goes to education. And we need more money to go to education.
That's why.
Unfortunately, it's like your toe compared to the rest of your body. It goes to the budget, but it's something.
Let's talk about education, and I'll let you go, I guess. I mean, I could talk to you forever. It's fascinating. But you talked about the school district being one of the biggest. You've covered it. You've written about these Board of Education divisive things that I've been dealing with, and Americans all over. Tell me a little bit about what's going on here in Nevada when it comes to schools and education. The same stuff that the rest of us are dealing with?
Pretty much. Yeah. It's not a teacher shortage. It's that people aren't paid or appreciated. There are more people here who used to be teachers who hold teaching licenses or did than there are teachers actually in the school.
That's telling.
That is very telling. And there are fewer people who are going into the teaching profession. For the last 4 decades, we have done nothing but denigrate teachers and teaching. And then we have these badly run schools or districts. And as I said earlier, we're the 5th largest school district. That means that there's a lot to manage, and it's really hard to do so for a city that is very economically diverse. There are some schools that do pretty well because they raise money privately from their public schools, but they still raise money privately from their parents because they live in Summerlin or they live in Henderson. And there are other schools who can't do that. And what we pay teachers is pretty criminal. We need to pay teachers more.
Right.
Education here is problematic for all the reasons that it's problematic everywhere else. But I think 5 years ago, I was totally against this. But I think now that if you break up the school district and have some smaller districts that can focus, it'll get better.
Is there a movement for that?
There's a bit of a movement for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, that's a moderate Republican movement. Moderate Republicans have pretty much lost their voice here.
You have arranged for me to talk to some great people coming in here, and I cannot thank you enough for talking to me and producing this for me. And I hope everybody will go subscribe to your Substack, support all of your work, follow you on social media. I'll plug it all on the way out. But Carrie, thank you, Sheila Bray, for connecting me with you, because you are a real treasure and great source and just such a cool and easy person to work with. I am so grateful that you joined me, and I look forward to talking to you more on the rest of the year on all these issues anytime you can.
Okay. Yeah.
Thanks, Carrie.
That'd be great.
All right. There you go, Carrie Kaufman. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with her. She's opened the door to several other guests, and I will have them joining me on tomorrow's show, hopefully. Hopefully, I get it done and up for you. But that's all I've got for you right now. Thank you very much for pressing play, for supporting me, and I'll talk to you tomorrow from my last day in Nevada on the Swing State Tour. John Carroll, take it away.
Let the brave meet the challenge, let the meek weak flee. Boy, you better stand up, stand up. When you're tired of begging, saying pretty please, that's the time you gotta finally get up on your knees. When you can't see the forest for the burning trees, you got to stand up. Hey, you've been sitting so long, you got the creaky knees, you got to stand up. Stand up. I think you're driving wheels with leaking grease. Boy, you better stand up. Stand up. Well, there's a whole lot more of us who know what's right. They'll keep right on ignoring us if we keep sitting tight. You got to open up the window to let in some light. You got to stand up. That's right. You got to rise up. You got to stand up. You got to stare the devil straight in the eye. Let him know it's his turn to go. See it clear when all you hear is a lie. Don't get up off of your butt, get down off of your fence. Even if it ain't a very friendly audience, well, they'll begin to listen when you start making sense. And you stand up, stand up. No need to point your rifle to defend your town. Just stand up, stand up. You know they can't deny what you're laying down. Boy, you better stand up, stand up. Show your face of every color, yellow, black, red, and brown. This is the place where every lost child will finally be found. There's only one thing to do before we stand our ground, and that's stand up, stand up. Well, the founding fathers saw a land for all. They had to stand up, they had to stand up. They had a keen imagination for a crystal ball, drawing all the plans of stand up. But all they had to go on was the time they were in, with other causes for laws, and since they weren't even sin, they knew that change was gonna come before the change could begin. They had to stand up. Alright, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We gotta let him know it's his time to go, and make it clear when all we hear is a lie. Why you lying awake wondering where the money all went? It'll be the cost of freedom that'll go unspent. You can see him flee the scene of that experiment if you stand up. Alright, we got to speak up, we got to reach up, and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up, you got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it but now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up, show obedience to the voice inside, and listen well and it'll tell you not to run and hide. It says stand up. Oh, got to stand up. Ooh, come on, just stand up. Everybody got to stand up in the darkest hour. Stand up. People got the power. Stand up. Come on, come on, come on. Come on, come on, come on. Come on, come on, come on. Stand up.